And we're going to do a couple things with this data. The first thing they ask is about outliers. And then we're going to also make a box plot. On either case, I need to know the 5-number summary. So why don't you go ahead and do the 5-number summary. Remember, you'll do your stat, calculate. Now you notice with the 5-number summary, kind of a weird result. The minimum value actually matched the Q1 value. That's because we had 2 of those that were the same. 285. Doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you see something like that. If I ever ask you for the 5-number summary, make sure you always list which value was which. Don't just write down the 5 numbers. Okay, so make sure you tell me which was which. All right, well, here's the question they want to know. They want to know, did we have any outliers in this situation? So we talked about on Wednesday that we could use the IQR times 1.5 rule. So I'm going to look at my 5-number summary, and I'm going to find the IQR first of all. So Q3 on this one was 300. Q1 was 285. So my IQR on this was 15. And I'm going to multiply that by the 1.5. So 15 times 1.5, that's going to give me 22.5. All right, now remember that 22.5 is the number I'm now going to use to help me decide, do I have an outlier or not? So when they ask me to show my work, what they're really wanting to know is, well, what's the low limit that we could go to without having an outlier, and then what's the upper limit that we could go to without having an outlier? Well, to make that decision for the low end, we decided we're going to start at Q1, its value, and I'm going to subtract whatever this number was, in this case 22.5. So Q1 was 285. This would be to find our lower limit. 285 was our Q1. And I'm going to take 22.5 away from that. And so I get a lower limit of 262.5. And I look at my data and I'd ask myself, well, did I ever dip below 262.5? Well, we didn't, right? Because our smallest is 285. So right now I'm good on the low end. I don't have any outliers on the low end. Now I got to look at my upper limit. Well, now I go to the other end. I look at Q3. And this time I'm going to add on to that the 22.5. So Q3 was 300. Add that 22.5 onto it. And I find out my upper limit is 322.5. So I go and look, did I have any values that were above that? Well, our maximum was 321, so I was in good shape there. So what that means is I did not have any outliers for this data. We didn't have anything that dipped below the lowest value or above the upper value. So we didn't have any outliers. But if I asked you that question, you wouldn't just write no. You'd want to make sure you show me, okay, here's the low end and how I got it. Here's the high end and how I got it. And then you can tell me no, it doesn't work or it doesn't happen. So it's not necessarily difficult work. It's a little bit tedious because you have to go through some steps there, but find those two different markers and then make your decision. All right, well, the next thing we want to do is try to make a box plot for this. Remember, the box plot is really just a way to display our 5-number summary. Well, our 5-number summary goes from 285 to 321. So I want to find a decent interval to set up for my number line. So on this one, I'm looking at 15, about 36 in between them. So I'm going to set up my number line. And when I do my number line, it's okay to start with the smallest value if you want to. You don't have to like start with 0 all the time or anything like that. So if I'm going from 285 to 321, again, that's 36. I might go by, well, I'm going to go by 3. Yeah, I'll go by 5. So I'm going to start at 285, and I'll go by 5. All right, so the box of the box plot starts at Q1 and ends at Q3. So I'm going to start at 285 and I'm going to end at 300. And again, you don't have to write the numbers above it. I like to do that. 3, 4, 6, for example. I'm going to make a vertical line at the median. So that was at 293. That's 293. Then I'm going to make my whiskers. This is kind of a strange one. Remember, we wanted to draw our whisker out to the smallest value as long as it wasn't an outlier. And we didn't have any outliers here, so we don't even have to worry about outliers on it. But the smallest value actually matches where Q1 is. So what that means is I don't even have to draw anything out on the low end because there's nothing to go to that's lower than 285. On the high end, though, we go up to 321. So I'm going to go out to 321, and that's where my whisker will go out. So other than a title, which was if you want to put your title here, or you could label it down here if you wanted to in this case, but somewhere telling people what you put on there. If you looked at this and I asked you about the shape, whether it was skewed or whether it was symmetric, if I just looked at this, what does it look like it is? Look like it's skewed, or look like it's symmetric? It looks skewed, right? Which way would you think that it looks skewed? To the right, we got this long tail to the right, versus over here we didn't have anything. All right. How can I double check that? You're right, that's what it looks like. It's skewed right. You remember what two values we're going to look at to make that decision? Yeah, the mean and the median. And we already know the median's at 293. My mean was 295.4. So we were right. The mean was bigger than the median, so that means it was skewed. And I kind of want to get in that habit of, yeah, we want to look at the picture and see what it looks like, but also reinforcing it by looking at the median and the mean. How do they compare to each other? Remember, we said if they're the same, then it'd be symmetric. If the mean happened to be less, then we're skewed to the left. So again, just another example of being able to create a box plot and also be able to identify the pattern outline.